What's up, y'all? It is your boy Kirk here with Kingdom Kids Media, and this is part 2 of the walkthrough of how I made Love Is, the soundtrack for the video. If you haven't seen it, check out the card. It'll pop up. I think it's on this side. I keep pointing up this way, but I don't know. But yeah, so anyway, let's get into it. What's up, y'all? It is your boy Kirk here with Kingdom Kids Media, where we help creators grow in their faith, their craft, and become the best version of themselves. And we're going to talk about how I made Love Is. So now we're going to get into the nitty gritty. Last time we talked about like the thought process behind it, which is really important. People a lot of the times want to get into just the technical nitty gritty and just kind of want like action points like that. But thinking about it and actually having the emotion behind it, then acting on those for making music is important. That's actually really bad advice. Don't just act on your emotions. Anyway, all right, so musically, we talked about how the keys were the first thing that came in this song. So we'll just listen to each section right now, and we'll kind of talk through each section. I might even break this part up into maybe 2 parts, because I want to get in depth with these sections. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to solo out the drums, and then we can listen to the drums. Yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll solo out the drums. Let's turn off the click. I'm not sure if you guys can actually hear that. All right, so you can see that these get pretty big. Let me skip over to here. All right, so this is a pretty straight groove when the big part comes in, when I guess the hook or the payoff or whatever you want to call it, the chorus, or it's just the end of it, the big part of the song. That is basically a simple backbeat. If you listen to the snare and the kick and what's going on there, it honestly... Oh, hang on. So, I mean, this is like, it sounds really live, and it sounds like I may have tracked a real instrument, but the fact of the matter is, this is a sample kit from Kontakt. I talked to you guys in the last video of how much I love Kontakt and the libraries that you could put in there. So this library is called Damage by Heaviosity. It's kind of like this apocalyptic drum library that's got a bunch of dope loops, and it's got really, really solid, big, over-the-top sounding drums. And I just liked how big they sound, to be honest. And I didn't sample it, I actually played the kit in that they have here, the studio drum kit. And they have a bunch of different samples that you can go from, and it's a full kit where you can actually play. Let me pull the keyboard up on here. Where is my keyboard? There you go. So I have this kit. Let me just take off all the reverb that I have on it, because the reverb is massive. And they're all velocity sensitive too, so if you play them like live on your keyboard and you know how to kind of like get the feel of it, it's actually really cool. You can actually make it sound like a real drummer is playing. And when I was playing these out, and when I played some of it, and I clicked some of it in the MIDI. If you guys don't know what MIDI is, it's these, I'll tell you real quick, it's these little sections here. So these actual things, there's 2 types of things you can actually make music with, and there's audio files and then there's MIDI files. MIDI files are basically triggers. They trigger, you know, a sound to be played from an instrument, and audio files are audio files, right? So these actually trigger this library to play the snare sound, right? So if I click on this little guy, it's a snare. See, it's really loud. So anyway, so what I did was I wrote it all out in one MIDI clip, and then I split them all out so that I could mix them like a true drum kit, right? And these sound huge. Yeah, so some of these are printed down and some of these are not. I think actually most of them are not printed down. The kick is, though. This is what the kick looks like. It's the same from the same kit. And I plugged it in, and then I drew these MIDI notes in so that this snare could play what I want it to play. You can notice too, like when I play, if you look at the audio file, these kicks are not the same exact velocity. They're not the same exact volume. They don't even look the same in audio, right? They look sort of similar, but that's what I love about this library is those that they have like variation in the sample. Whenever you hit that, you can hit the same note a bunch of times and you'll cycle through different samples, which actually makes it sound real. And it does, because no drummer is going to hit the kick drum the same exact way every single time, and it's not going to sound the same exact way every single time. That's one of the important parts about trying to make like a software instrument sound real, is that you think about human error, not even error, but just the human aspect of somebody playing it. So when I was playing these drums, I thought about my friend Johnson, who's a dope drummer. He's got a dope drum channel. I think I'm gonna link it in the card. You could check it out. He's got a dope drum channel. You should check him out. And he's an amazing drummer. So I was thinking about the way that he would play this. And I even thought about, like, I closed my eyes and imagined him playing this part, and where he would hit and how he would hit. And that's kind of what drove me to make this tom pattern here. Because like now I'm like in my head, I'm watching him actually play this in my head, right? And I'm watching, okay, so it would be weird if the toms were always going and he was hitting the snare. There are some drummers that could probably do it, but really good drummers can make the simplest beats sound really good. So, and that's what Johnson does, is really good. So then after that, I have the toms, I have the kick, and I have the snare. So it gives you kind of this groove. You can almost imagine a live drummer actually playing that, which is really cool. All right, so we have the toms. I also, under the kick, I added a sample kick. This kick is, let's see what it is. LD kick. This is something I got from Splice. If you're a producer, if you make music, you should definitely jump on Splice. And you know, the cheapest thing is like a $7.99 thing where you get some credits and you could find really good samples of stuff. So there's so many things. I use it for a lot of stuff. So I have a kick sample under the kick so that it kind of beefs it up. Because if you listen to it without it, it's a little thin. But then if I add it in, just fattens it up a little bit, gives it a kind of bigger, boomier kind of sound. And then what really makes it sound like a live kit is the hi-hats. Now, it may be a little bit unrealistic for the hi-hat to be keeping time like that, but they could do it with their foot, and it could be an open hi-hat. And then there's some cymbals in there too that I added in that just kind of added to the beat to make it just kind of bring it up a little bit more of the energy. And yeah, so I really just imagined a drummer actually playing this stuff out. and it might be a tad unrealistic, but at least it's close enough to sound real. And then I have these other drum loops. So this is that same drum library where they have these really big, like, pretty big drums in there. And I just added those cinematic drums in there to kind of just make it bigger, make it more cinematic. So now let's just listen to that drum section again by itself. Cool. So I even programmed that fill in and stuff, and if we really go into it, you can actually see that there's a velocity difference. Now the velocity is shown by the color here. The green is lighter than, and then the red is like the hottest it can get, the hardest it can get. And the velocity is basically how the computer sees it as how hard it sounds like how hard you're hitting something, but it's actually how fast you're hitting it. That's how the computer actually understands it. So it's what it actually is it emulates how hard you're hitting stuff. Like, so if you hit something really soft, if this is blue, super blue, then it would be, you know, really quiet. You can kind of barely hear it. And adding these kind of like ghost notes in there at different points really helps you get that real feel. So, all right, cool. So let's go on to the next thing. So we also have these cinematic loops. Damage comes packed with a bunch of loops that you could just trigger by one note. So this is just one note, as you can see on the screen, but it's this whole crazy loop. Is it cheating? I don't know. It sounds good, so I put it in there. And then I have another loop under there. Actually, we have to trigger it. So this is another loop of the same kind of deal. And I added those in the sections where the track is kind of building. And yeah, just to add a different variation. And I didn't have them in the big part because it just muddied up everything. But yeah, so that's the drum section of this. This video is about 13 minutes. I don't want to go too much longer, so I'm going to cut this off here. This is part 2. Part 3 will go over the pianos and the guitar, the lead guitars, and possibly, if we can get into it, the other guitars as well. And yeah, so that'll be next Monday. It's going to be dope. If you haven't heard or seen the video, check it out. It's going to be in the card, and it's going to be probably it's going to be somewhere. You're going to be able to see it on the channel. Just subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. You'll be able to see all this new video stuff. But anyway, this is part 2, right? Yeah. Anyway, let me sign off. I'll see you guys later. Catch you next week.